Ladies and gentlemen, I have a friend by the name of Zach, or Who's Immortal. He makes Call of Duty videos just like I do, and he made a video yesterday which is called More Bad News for Call of Duty, and I kind of wanted to give my reaction to what he has to say about it. It involves the layoffs at Microsoft and Xbox and things like that, but it also talks about the price of the next Call of Duty, what is going on with that, and I just kind of wanted to give you my take. I've been doing more and more of these kind of reaction videos, and if you enjoy them, hit that like button, subscribe, all of that kind of jazz. But without further ado, my friend Zach, let's hear what you have to say.
And gentlemen, hey,
ladies and gentlemen,
how you doing? Welcome
how
back
are you
to the
doing?
channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. As we all know, Microsoft now owns Activision Blizzard King, and really
We
ever
do
since
all
they
know.
finalized this $70 billion purchase a little while back, it's been sort of a mixed reception and a mixed result. There's been some kind of cool things that have stemmed from it. There's also been a lot of pretty concerning things.
So layoffs being the concerning thing, some of the cool things is crossovers and things like that, including we're supposedly getting a Fallout 4 event coming with Season 4. So that's kind of what he's talking about there.
And unfortunately, more bad news for potentially Call of Duty and
Oh, no.
several other things related to now Xbox and Activision have surfaced. So this starts with a new report from Bloomberg, but this is far from the only thing that is, potentially foreshadowing some unfortunate events for Call of Duty and
Do
Xbox
go on.
alike. So Charlie Intel reports Bloomberg is reporting that Xbox is still not done cutting costs and that more cuts are on the way. This is coming after just this past week, a handful of other studios that working on other Xbox titles.
So we talked about this with the Alana video, Alana Pierce. She made a video talking about the Microsoft cuts. So this is including the studios that worked on Redfall, the one that worked on Hi-Fi Rush. So one studio that pumped out amazing games, one studio that just put out a stinker. Their studios completely got dissolved. Like, they're gone. And Microsoft did that, and apparently there's more cuts coming. And we've already had Call of Duty studios get some of their staff cut as well, and a big percentage of them, including Sledgehammer Games being one of them. So apparently there's more on the way, according to Bloomberg.
Titles, not specifically Activision titles, but several other titles were shut down and, let go essentially, which is sucky, just flat out way to put it. Also reporting that Microsoft executives started to further scrutinize the Xbox division after the $70 billion purchase of Activision.
So to be clear, Microsoft, Xbox. Microsoft is the big company, Xbox is the gaming company underneath it. Microsoft executives were mad at Xbox executives after buying Activision. So Microsoft, Xbox, Activision, they scrutinized it after the $70 million purchase. That's what's going on there.
So this is the new article from Bloomberg from Jason Schreier, who is a common name when it comes to
Isn't it Jason Schreier? I could be wrong, but isn't it Schreier?
insider information. Jason is pretty spot on with a lot of this stuff, but Microsoft's Xbox is planning more cuts after studio closing. So other staff at ZeniMax were cut earlier on, like I said, this week, and they talk about that a little bit. Xbox has declined to comment. There were various different parts of this article talking about these other studios.
I think that, they should have to comment. They should have to put out a statement saying why they're doing this. And like they have in the past, like weeks later, come out and said, oh, well, they weren't making money, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that they're just like, yep, gone, nobody, we're not even saying anything to anybody. I don't like that, but hey, they're going to do what they're going to do.
Being shut down, Arcane Austin, so on and so forth. There's also, though, this section, which talks a little bit about Microsoft and Activision, and it's just not really all that great.
Okay.
They say Tango and Arcane released games last year. They were looking to hire additional staff, under Xbox. They pitched new projects, but then ultimately were shut down. These cuts at Xbox come amid a wider contraction in the video game industry due to economic shifts following a period of rapid growth during the pandemic. Recently,
Yeah,
Microsoft
so this is what I talked about in the previous video. All these layoffs, a good portion of them are happening because they had this massive growth during COVID, and they hired a buttload of people to kind of be able to provide for the upped services that were needed. So a bunch more people were playing Call of Duty, for example. During that time, the numbers went way up. So they hired a ton of people to be able to support the game. And now that it's no longer going on, people are going out and touching grass. Those jobs are not needed, so a bunch of them are getting cut. The problem is some of these jobs that are getting cut aren't just for what was hired during that time. It is now for a bunch of other things, including whole game studios.
Microsoft's gaming division has expanded more than any of its competitors via the acquisitions of ZeniMax and Activision Blizzard for more than $76 billion combined. In February, as some of you may recall, Microsoft cut 1,900 jobs, mostly at Activision Blizzard. A lot of that being some QA on Modern Warfare 3 and whatnot, which of course, as we've seen throughout several updates over the past few weeks, Season 3 Reloaded, for example, are incredibly broken, and you can't help but wonder, if there were more QA here, or if those people weren't let go, would we be having these same issues going on? But
solid point, Zach. So what are you saying there is the 1,900 jobs that were cut, a lot of them were at Activision Blizzard. A good portion of those at Activision Blizzard were QA testers, the people that test updates and patches and new games to see if they're broken. And with recent updates, every single time there's a season reloaded, the game breaks in one way or another. The most recent way was you couldn't reload properly in Warzone. If they had more QA testers, would that not have happened? I don't know. But it lends to the question, is that what's going on behind the scenes?
they're focused on cost cutting. The massive Activision Blizzard acquisition has ramped up scrutiny on the Xbox division from leaders at Microsoft, according to people familiar. In recent years, Xbox became deeply invested in Xbox Game Pass, a subscription service that offers unlimited access to hundreds of downloadable games for a monthly fee. It's honestly a pretty good deal as a consumer. To fill the service with new enticements, Xbox acquired dozens of studios, including outfits.
Yeah, so it's clear that Xbox and Microsoft are trying to up the sales of Game Pass, and Call of Duty is one of those acquisitions that I think we're going to see on June 9th, that they're adding a bunch of Call of Duty games to Game Pass, and I'm guessing the next Call of Duty will be on there as well. I think he's going to get more into that, though.
Smaller games such as Double Fine. They basically go on to say that Game Pass right now is not seeing major increases in revenue. In our data, Game Pass spending really had its big growth period in late 2019 through early 21,
COVID
then has since settled. While there's no indication that Xbox plans to ditch the Game Pass model, there are hints that its big bets have not paid off. And this is where the second part comes in that ties a lot more to Call of Duty specifically. And as we get into this in the remainder of the video, quick reminder, if you're new to the channel, every
subscribe.
single day I got you covered.
Why is everyone not subscribing?
You need to know about Call
Do
of
it.
Duty, whether it's news,
Subscribe
updates,
to Zach.
patch notes,
Subscribe
meta
to me.
breakdowns, all
Subscribe to
things like that
everyone.
are right here, so feel free to hit that
But subscribe to
button.
Zach. Seriously,
Join
he's
us
awesome.
Ultimately on the road to 1 million subs.
Get him
And
to
if
1
you enjoyed
million.
this video, despite the rather unfortunate news, do me a favor, drop a like. It is always really appreciated regardless. Charlie until then goes on to say there's also a new report from The Verge, and they say that they're reporting Xbox executives have been debating for months whether or not to put Call of Duty on Xbox Game Pass because of how much revenue will be lost.
I'm very
Also,
curious what
discussions
Zach has to
happening
say about this, because
increasing
I've talked
Game
about this
Pass's
already.
price. So this is the new article from The Verge inside of Microsoft's Xbox turmoil, which largely also talks about these various other studio closings that have happened recently, but then it goes into the more Call of Duty and Activision based information here. So they say inside Xbox, there's now uncertainty about what the future holds and questions over Microsoft's gaming strategy. While Microsoft is looking toward a more PC-like future for its Xbox,
They've been doing that
console,
for
the company
years.
continues to battle a slowdown in Game Pass subscribers, lackluster console sales, and game launch delays. Microsoft has also had internal debates about whether to put the new releases of Call of Duty into Game Pass. This is a
So it sounds like to me they've already made their decision that the old Call of Duty games are indeed going to be on Game Pass, but they want those day one sales of Call of Duty. So again, I'm curious what Zach has to say about this one.
big thing with specifically Black Ops 6 or Black Ops Gold 4 coming later on this year about whether or not this is going to be available on Game Pass day one. They've also seemingly done some updates to older Xbox titles. Like I think Black Ops 2 got a title.
Yeah, so I haven't talked about that yet, but Black Ops 2 did indeed get a title update to up its security. So that lends us to believe that, hey, it's going to come to Game Pass because that security update allows people to play it online, which previously it was pretty messed up. So they're getting ready for us to be able to play those games on Game
a couple
Pass.
of months back that a lot of us assumed was a prep for it also coming to Game Pass. So if you were a Game Pass subscriber, you could end up getting Black Ops 2, OG Modern Warfare 3, Modern Warfare 2, all those older COD titles with your subscription, and it probably sort of cause resurgence on those older titles and maybe increase those Game Pass sales a lot because people want that nostalgic feeling with COD. But then also with the new Call of Duties launching, if it's a day one availability on Game Pass as part of that subscription
That'd be
model,
a big selling
instead
feature of
paying
Game Pass.
60, 70, 80, 90, $100 for your copy of Black Ops 6, let's say, for instance, depending on which version you get, you could pay the Game Pass monthly subscription, and technically that game now is just a part of that. And you know, pricing wise, as a consumer, that's honestly a pretty good deal. But for Xbox and Microsoft, maybe not so much. They say, I understand this is a debate that's been going on internally for quite some time.
One thing that I didn't mention in my video on this is that Call of Duty is a game that people play for a long time. Like it's not just, but some people just hop on, play the campaign, hop off. But if they are, and for those players, if they are able to just sell like 3 months of Game Pass, they're going to make their money back on the game. But people are generally going to play Call of Duty for a full year. So if they can sell a Game Pass as opposed to just selling the game, a lot more people are going to pay more money for the game than they would have otherwise. But again, they're worried about people not getting game. It doesn't really make any sense to me why they wouldn't put it on Game Pass. It doesn't.
With concerns from some that the revenue that Call of Duty typically generates for Activision.
I guess the only thing that I can think of is if people already have Game Pass, they wouldn't be selling the Game Pass for the game. But people are already paying for it, so they have to look at that as a win. If people are staying on Game Pass to play Call of Duty, that's what, I don't know. I don't understand it.
Will be undermined by Game Pass. If you're unaware, within, you know, months, Call of Duty is making billions of dollars just out of the game sales outright. Charlie Intel sort of expands on this to a comment from Hope saying, wouldn't they be making more money if someone stays subscribed on Game Pass just because they want
That's
the
what I
discount
just said.
technically on COD, as it's not just short term, you know. And Charlie Intel says that's not counting for the fact that you are only paying one monthly fee to access a lot of different games, not just COD. COD makes $1+ billion within 30 to 60 days on its own every year. Then also obviously throughout the year when the new seasons drop, when we see.
Yeah, so that's I guess what they have to look at is if they put Call of Duty onto Game Pass, are that many more people going to play it, therefore selling more microtransactions, or will that mess up the sales? That's a hard question, but I think there's enough people on Game Pass already where more people would play it, more people would get into it, and more people would probably buy microtransactions, therefore making them more money long term. But again, hard to say.
Major updates, more bundles, more battle passes. You might think, yeah, Call of Duty's not at its peak like it was during MW 2019, but the money that this game is, you know, turning over every single season is insane because of the microtransactions and the additional in-year updates. And that's not to mention the other people that continue to buy the new game even though it's not, you know, available that day. If they're buying it in season 2 or season 4 or whatever, plenty of people are still doing that as well. So because of that, you could almost have a really interesting situation. I'm told that Microsoft has also considered increasing the price of Game Pass Ultimate again. These are only considerations.
So yeah, this is another thing.
Could still mean we see a future Call of Duty release appear in most versions of Game Pass. The debate internally.
So I don't like that. If you're going to have a Game Pass or a Netflix, everything should be available on one version of that. So if there's one version of Netflix where you have to wait an extra week to get a movie, or one where the movie is only on if you're paying more, I don't like that. It's a subscription fee. You should have everything for that subscription fee.
The fact that Microsoft's Xbox strategy has shifted from delivering its games exclusively in a Game Pass to considering bringing more Xbox games to multiple platforms. So essentially the major concerns here that impact Call of Duty directly are the future cost cutting that Microsoft is still looking to do and Xbox is still looking to do to save money. That could impact several Call of Duty studios. We have a ton of Call of Duty studios working on Call of Duty as a whole right now, whether it's on the mobile front or as a support studio doing various different map updates or lighting things, audio, this, that, whatever else. There's a lot of hands in the pot right now, a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and that could directly impact those cost-cutting, you know, maneuvers in the future could directly result in more problems and more layoffs for Call of Duty. In addition to that, Call of Duty on Game Pass has been a huge topic for pretty much the entirety of this acquisition process, and now it's gone into jeopardy.
So a lot of people are saying that Microsoft buying Activision is the reason for all of these layoffs, and a good portion of these layoffs are at Activision Blizzard. But I think another reason for this is the whole COVID thing that we talked about before. And pretty much everyone is dealing with layoffs right now, not just Microsoft. Sony is too. But yeah, I think it's definitely a part of it. You see a $70 billion purchase, you got to make up that revenue somehow. And a next Call of Duty game isn't coming out until October, and it'll probably make like what, $5 billion over the year, maybe a little bit more if it's better. So it'll make the money, but not 70.
And whether or not it's actually financially viable for Microsoft to even do that. And as an Xbox player, that's definitely not good news for you. And then in the future, who knows what that means long term for Call of Duty as well, with its availability going into things.
Yeah, yearly releases, things like that. Is that what's going to happen?
So this entire adventure has been a roller coaster, to say the least. As it stands, though, yeah, definitely not the most promising information for COD's future, I would say. That being said, that is going to wrap things up.
All right, Zach, I appreciate what you had to say. Go check out his channel. The video will be linked down in the description. He has really dope keyboards. If you look underneath me, I believe that's Charizard and Blastoise under there. But yeah, it's some humbling news for Call of Duty, if you will. I'm very curious to see if we are going to get more layoffs at Activision, what that means for the game moving forward. I think a big focus for Xbox right now is the next Call of Duty game, because at their Direct on June 9th, that is when we are getting the reveal, and it's going to be a big reveal. So yeah, stay tuned for more about this. But layoffs suck, and price changes for things that should be a set price suck. So I'm curious what you guys have to say. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Peace.